Lenny and Babs Fulton have been the caretakers of the other remarkable relic, which is draped in black behind me. Lenny discovered this important relic several decades ago at an estate sale for the late Print and Billy Woodward. The cornerstone was not sold, it wasn't even being offered for sale, but it was in the backyard and it had sunk down 4 or 6 inches into the earth, covered in moss, and Lenny inquired if was the cornerstone for sale, and he was told, no, it's not for sale, but if you think you're man enough to get it out of here, you can have it. Well, Lenny is a classmate of mine, and I learned a long time ago there are not many things that Lenny Fulton's not man enough to do, so he went on and got a 2-wheel dolly, and came back with a little help, and he picked it up, took it to his house, cleaned it up, and that's where it's been all these years. Now, a few months ago, I was at Lenny Fulton's with some of my friends who were here this morning. We were having a fish fry, and I noticed it for the first time. Well, my first time ever to visit, but I noticed, I said, Lenny, what is that? He said, you're not going to believe this. And I almost didn't, but he said, it's the old cornerstone from our original courthouse. And then he said, and it does not need to be in this shop. It needs to be on permanent display somewhere. He said, would you help me make that happen? And so that's how this day all came about. We want to make a special word of thanks to Beth Edwards, who did a tremendous, she's our Winston County Library. She did a tremendous job researching and for our day today. Beth was here up until just a few moments ago, but she has a family medical emergency that has developed this morning and had to leave, and I'm going to take her part on the program, but remember her and her mother-in-law, Gay Edwards, in your prayers. And as they've always done over the years for anything to promote the betterment of our community, Taylor Machine Works supports this worthwhile project by constructing the display frame. You're not going to see it. It's under something else, but without it, it's like a firm foundation. We had to have it. And I want to thank Robert Taylor and Greg Sisson for that. And it was designed by former Director of Engineering at Taylor Machine Works, Mike Bowles, along with Ricky Patterson, Robin Carter, Dwight Chappell, and that team up there. We also are indebted to Darrell Duty, Russ Nowell, and Larry Beasley of Mississippi Granite Works for helping to secure and engrave the beautiful granite pedestal, which you will see very soon. Quick thank you to Dickie Caperton and the members of Masonic Lodge, Louisville Masonic Lodge number 75, for furnishing the chairs this morning. And also, without Jason Pugh, I didn't know until I started on this project, but in every county in Mississippi, the sheriff is responsible for your courthouse. And so we had to get the sheriff's permission to do what we're doing today. Sheriff Pugh was so thoughtful and to do that. And I want to thank Sheriff Pugh. He's got just a small part of the program a little bit later on. There are so many who've made financial contributions. They're listed on the back of your program. We're not going to take the time to list them, but thank you so very much. It just was amazing. The money started coming in. We had more than enough money to take care of all of this. Thank you so very much. Now, let me tell you just a brief history of Winston County Courthouses. When Winston County was first laid out, it was a square. The 3 stair-step sections in the Panhandle were later incorporated into Choctaw County. That's in the northwest corner of our county. The first election held in Winston County was at Sulphur Springs. Judge Bevel, who Bevel Hill was named after, declared that the courthouse should be located in the center of the county and not at Sulphur Springs. So the courthouse was moved to Louisville. And according to tradition, in 1834, a log courthouse was built on the site where Caperton's Auto Supply was located, now located just down the hill here at the corner of where it's just around the corner. This served as the courthouse for about 7 years. Then warehouse space was rented on Main Street in 1841 for $50 a year, and this served as the courthouse until 1843. The county then purchased a lot with a house located on it from Charter G. Nemo and Robert C. Thornton for $800. It was at the northeast corner of Main Street and Court Street. And this is the location of our present courthouse. This house located on this lot served as the courthouse. In 1848, a contract was signed to erect a new courthouse by January. It was supposed to be built by January the 1st of 1850. Of a huge sum of $4,500 to build the courthouse. The The building was of pressed brick, 2 stories high, with 4 rooms and passages on each floor, heated by 4 chimneys and covered with pine shingles.
Oh.
One very interesting note about that building, there was a hanging gallows on the 2nd floor of the old courthouse, where if you were condemned to die, it took care of it right here. In 1887, the Board of Supervisors, at the insistence of Beat 5 Supervisor, Mr. Hoskins, voted to build a new courthouse. There was a lot of opposition to this because of the cost involved. However, when they started tearing down the old building, they found that most, if not all, the support timbers were rotten and the building was close to collapsing, so Mr. Hoskins became a hero. The winning bid for the courthouse, and that's the one that you see right here, was $11,950, and the building committee consisted of Dr. G.Y. Woodward, H.G. Gully, and H.L.W. Hathorne. All of their names are on this cornerstone. It was completed by January 1st of 1889. It was constructed of red brick clay found just south of the construction site. And the cornerstone of the new courthouse was laid by Presbyterian Reverend M.J. McLean. In 1963, this building was torn down, and the present-day brick 2-story building was erected on the same site. The new building, the new courthouse, this one, cost $350,000 to build and was air-conditioned and had basement office space. When the old courthouse was torn down, the cornerstone, this one behind me, was removed, and the time capsule above the cornerstone was opened, and there was a bottle of whiskey inside. And I shared this with his son, but if I was to ask anybody who wants to bet who got the bottle of whiskey, James Mayo got the bottle of whiskey. One last note on the history of that was put together by Beth Edwards, and she was going to present this morning. The Winston County Courthouse and the Noxubee County Courthouse in Macon, Mississippi are the only 2 courthouses in this entire area that never burned and that have preserved most all of their county records. Remarkable history indeed of our courthouses here in Winston County. As we just mentioned, there was a cornerstone laying ceremony in August of 1888. And the principal speaker was Reverend M.J. McLean, the pastor of one of the Presbyterian, may have been the only Presbyterian church. I know there are 2 here now, may have been the only one at the time. Brother McLean's message that day is remarkable, and it's just as relevant today as it was then. And before we unveil the ceremony and conclude our ceremony, we're going to ask members of the Winston County Judiciary, along with a very special guest, to read the dedication speech that was delivered in 1888. Our presenters are Winston County Justice Court Judges Robert Beck and Mike Fuller, Mississippi 6th Chancery Court Judges Joey Kilgore and Edward Fenwick, Mississippi 5th Circuit Court Judges George Mitchell and Joey Loper, and our special guest, retired Mississippi Supreme Court Justice Dr. David Chandler. Gentlemen, thank you so very much for being here and being such a special part of this program. These esteemed jurists will now come forward and read the dedication speech delivered on August 11, 1888. The speech in its entirety has been enlarged and will be a permanent part of the display. Thank you, gentlemen. Judge Beck.
Fellow citizens, we are here to lay the cornerstone of this temple of justice in the name of the God of justice and equal rights, of law and equity. Do we lay this cornerstone? We, the people of Winston County, do build this house and set it apart for the protection and the defense of our people in the lawful pursuit of life.
Now let this house be a sign and a menace a sign of safety to every citizen who obeys the county's laws, and menace to everyone who dares to lay rebellious hands upon the rights of others. Let no judge or jury dare prevent justice, mercy, and truth in this house, but let the principles of law and equity be taught and enforced in the fear of the God of truth.
Let no man desecrate these walls by presumptuously daring to call upon the law to protect him in his crime. Let not these walls echo the voice of perjury. Rather, let everyone who would dare call upon the great God to witness a falsehood see the handwriting of that God upon these walls, and go hide his debased soul and keep company with moles, bats, and owls.
As every Israelite was taught to look toward the temple, the dwelling place of Shekinah, in every time of need, so let every citizen of Winston County look toward this house as being the place where even-handed justice is meted out to everyone.
The stability, prosperity, and perpetuity of our free institutions depend, under God, upon the execution of just and righteous laws. Under the Republican form of government and the execution of the laws is wholly in the hands of the people. The people are at once the lawmakers and law executors. The will of the people is the supreme law of the land.
It should be the will of the people that their will should be obeyed. They should hold every judge, jury, and officer to a strict account for the defense and execution of their will. They have built this house and they dedicate it for this purpose. It is the people's house. It is your house. It is my house. It is a house sacred to truth and justice, law and equity. Here then, let every justice dwell. Here let truth and justice plead every man's cause. Here let injustice and falsehood stand rebuked by every brick in these walls. And we call upon every being to cry out against everyone who shall be so false to and unworthy of himself and his country as to think falsely against his neighbor. Fellow citizens, we now lay this cornerstone in the fear of God and in the love of eternal justice and mercy.
Thank you so much, judges. As I said, a copy of this magnificent speech has been enlarged and is hanging on the wall behind the cornerstone, as well as two short excerpts from the speech which are engraved on both sides of the pedestal which you are about to see. Again, I want to thank all of you for coming, and at this time we're going to ask Justice Chandler, Sheriff Pugh, Lenny Fulton, and Janice Hunter to do the honors of unveiling the cornerstone, which will conclude our ceremonies. You were then, each and every one, invited for a close inspection of this, and hopefully each and every time you have reason to come to this courthouse, you'll be able to stop and realize you were a part of its rededication and be proud of our county's history. The unveiling will conclude our program. Thank you all for being here. If you'll give me just a moment to move the microphone and the podium, y'all can unveil it on your will. Thank you.
That is right, Joe.
Amazing.